Hello, I'm Ivysaur. And I'm Deconverted Man. I want to do a video analysis. Well, Ivysaur, that's kind of my job, but you can sit on top of my head. Alright, can you at least make it to have something to do with the Matrix? I think I can. Alright.
Hello and welcome to Common Sense TV. I'm your host,
Morpheus.
I'd like to present to you, I'm sure you're familiar with the term God is dead, coined by Friedrich Nietzsche.
Yes, we're familiar with that term. I'm going to go ahead and just skip to the part where you start making your actual presentation.
Atheism is allowed to be taught in the school system.
Morpheus, did you take the yellow pill? That's not the right pill to take. Look, I don't know where you're getting your information from, but no school system that I'm aware of teaches atheism at all. So, unless you have actual documentation of an actual school actually teaching atheism, then this is nothing more than an outright lie.
But when we look at the examination of atheism, we find out that most of it is a lofty viewpoint.
Morpheus, perhaps in the Matrix, logic doesn't work the way that it works out here in the real world. What you just said here is what's called poisoning of the well, and it could be considered an ad hominem attack against the people rather than their arguments. Okay, even if atheism is a lofty viewpoint or contains lofty viewpoints, that doesn't invalidate it. And it attempts to poison the well by saying that it's a lofty viewpoint.
Advocating that the Christian or those believers is narrow-minded.
Morpheus, that was not the correct pill to take either. That was the orange pill. I'm not sure what that one does, but I think it screwed you up a little bit more. So let me try to get you back into reality once again. See, in the real world, this is what's known as a straw man. There might be an atheist out there who might be promoting either by spoken word or by written word or both the idea that Christians are narrow-minded or have a narrow viewpoint. And it might even be the case that many atheists are doing this, but not all atheists are doing this. Neither do atheists as a group partake necessarily in this activity. So you're attacking something that is not necessarily something that we are doing, therefore creating a straw man.
You remember Sigmund Freud and Friedrich Nietzsche and a lot of the other famous atheists says that people create a god or religion because they're not able to deal with society.
There's a little bit more to it than just that basic statement, but let's keep that in mind as if that was the only point that these particular individuals were trying to make. Let's just assume, for the sake of his presentation here, that both of these authority figures have said that people make God because they cannot deal with society.
They're not able to cope with society, so they create this fictional Santa Claus in the sky. This does not make much sense because if a man was going to create a God, he would not create a God like the God of the Bible.
All right, let's pause for a moment and go back to that first premise where Dr. Sigmund Freud and Nietzsche have given us this first premise. Humans make up God in order to deal with society. Then your second premise is, I don't understand. Conclusion, therefore nobody could make up a holy, just, perfect God in order to cope with society. Does not follow. Non sequitur, and also appeal to personal incredulity because that's premise 2 is I don't understand how this can be that this applies to my God because my God is perfect in my view. Now, I have heard Christians make this sort of argument in the reverse way. Oh, well, this God is so demanding of us and is asking us to do all these things. Do you really think that somebody would make up that sort of God? Well, because they would make up a God that's really nice and happy and doesn't ask you to do anything. Therefore, they couldn't have made up this God. But that argument works for every God. It works for Hindu gods. It works for the Great Spirit. It works for any god you want to apply it to. Let's look at a Hindu god, the one with the elephant head, whose name I can't remember right now. Hey, look, it's a human body with an elephant head. Well, nobody would make that up. It's just too silly to be made up. And it's so far removed from human experience that it couldn't possibly be made up by humans. Oh, look at how wonderful it is and holy it is. Oh, look at how unapproachable it is. Wouldn't they make a God that was approachable and more human than this God? Clearly, this God has to be real. It doesn't follow.
But when we look at this whole atheism and evolutionary theory, even Richard Dawkins, which can be considered as the high priest of atheism, says we have no evidence about what the first step in making life was.
Morpheus. Biological evolution is true. And if you're going to start denying it, you better understand what you're talking about, because I'm going to take you to task if you don't. Let's just see if you know what you're talking about.
But we do know that the kind of step it must have been whatever it took to get natural selection started.
Well, that seems like something Dawkins might have said, and it actually flows really well into a logically coherent argument. We have an unknown X, a known Y. X is before Y. Whatever X is something that led to Y. X leads to Y. It's very simple, straightforward argumentation. Of course, the other problem is that this is a cherry-picked phrase that Dawkins used. We don't have the full context of what he said, and there's no way to know if this is something that Dawkins did in fact say, because Morpheus doesn't offer us any links in his description box of where Dawkins said this in print or in video format, or both. So I don't even know if Dawkins actually said this or not. So we have cherry picking and a straw man.
Look at how asinine Richard Dawkins' statement sounds.
Dang it, Morpheus, I told you not to screw this up. This wasn't difficult. This was a simple argumentation. It flowed perfectly. How in the world are you screwing this up?
We have no evidence about what the first step in making life was. I know you don't. But we do know that the kind of step it must have been whatever it took to get natural selection started. Now, you're talking about taking faith in order to believe something. Even Richard Dawkins.
Okay, so let's see if I can make an analogy. I hate to make analogies because it could be very much a false analogy, and it could also be an argument to analogy, but hopefully this will make it comprehensible to Morpheus here. Morpheus, you are bald, okay? Whatever process you took is a process that would wind up with you being bald. I know for a fact that you are bald. This is an unquestionable fact. This is something that I know because the evidence for it is on my screen. I could even, in theory, test your head and make sure that it is in fact bald. I do not know how you got to be bald. Maybe you shaved your head. Maybe somebody else shaved your head. Maybe you lost your hair gradually over time until you were completely bald, or some other process that I am leaving out. Maybe you used Nair. Who knows? I don't know. But I do know that whatever process you used would get to the result that I see now. So, process X that is unknown would lead to conclusion Y, which is known. Process X is how you became bald. Conclusion Y is you are bald. I don't know what X is, but I do know that it would lead you to becoming bald. Okay? It's not that hard. I don't have to know how it started to know what the result is going to be because I'm looking at the result.
Is admitting that his theory makes no sense, but the atheists want you to believe that they are the intellectual superior.
And outright lie. No, Dawkins doesn't say that his theory is wrong. And by the way, it wouldn't just be his theory because biological evolution is a huge theory that multiple areas of science agree upon. And even if Dawkins does say one day, hey, it's wrong, I'm going to question him severely about that because he's going to need an ample amount of evidence for it. Just because you don't understand how it works, because it's too complicated, doesn't make it wrong. And then, of course, there's the whole 2Q. Oh, you have faith in biological evolution, nom 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 nom. Which is utter bull. We don't have faith in it. We know that it's a real thing because of the overwhelming evidence that we have for it. But let's just say that we did have faith, so we're both in the same boat. So you have faith, I have faith. Is faith good or bad? If faith is good, then great, we're both fine. If faith is bad, then we should try to have as least amount of faith as we possibly can. Which means you don't get to believe in your deity, and I don't get to believe in biological evolution. So that would make you an atheist as well. And we just discard biological evolution. I don't know why we would, because it's not based on faith, but whatever, fine, let's just do that then if faith is bad. But if faith is good, then I should try to have more of it than you do. And if it takes more faith to believe in a universe without God, then I guess I should try to believe in a universe without God. Because that's good, right? So is faith good or bad? Oops. Oh, right, that whole thing there that I just said destroys your 2Q and every which way, which is why we don't invoke a 2Q in the first place to try to win an argumentation.
To everybody, they want you to believe that their belief system is more of a higher level than yours. But once we examine some of the atheists, which based a lot of their teaching from the Sigmund Freud and the Friedrich Nietzsche was an amoral individual who hated women, by the way.
What are you doing? You look delicious.
It looks like Deconverted Man has slightly lost his mind, so let's take a pause from the analysis and play everybody's favorite game. How many logical fallacies can one person make in 25 seconds?
Atheists want you to believe that they are the intellectual superior to everybody. They want you to believe that their belief system is more of a higher level than yours. But once we examine some of the atheists, which based a lot of their teaching from the Sigmund Freud and the Friedrich Nietzsche was an amoral individual who hated women, by the way. He once said, "Do you know that no woman's voice has ever made a deep impression on me? Although I have met all kinds."
And we're all out of time. Your grand total is 7 logical fallacies in a mere 25 seconds. Back to the analysis.
Most atheists want you to believe that the earth is eternal when speaking on if the universe was eternal.
Earth, universe, one of those things, whatever. I'm not sure what my own straw man was. It's okay, Morpheus. Sometimes I say porcupine when I meant lobsters.
He says there are 3 elements to prove that the universe itself is not eternal.
So, in Morpheus's Matrix world, all one has to do to present an argumentation that proves anything is cite one scientist who agrees with your ideas. In this case, he's citing a single scientist who is arguing the case that the universe can't be eternal. And, of course, the conclusion to this sort of argument is going to be, well, we can't have an eternal universe, so therefore we can have an eternal God. Because that totally makes sense. God gets a special exception to not being not eternal thing of. Why not? Because, I don't know, lobsters, whatever. Doesn't have to... Look. Just don't think about it too hard. Back to the video.
And the university is running down. In other words, what he's saying is that no explosion causes order. An explosion causes chaos. So the Big Bang Theory is a joke within itself.
It is so bizarre to hear somebody read a passage that explains the Big Bang and then go on to say that the Big Bang Theory doesn't make sense within itself. It's just the weirdest thing that I've ever witnessed so far. That doesn't make it invalid. It's just weird. That's all I'm saying. Now, what makes it invalid is it's not true. What he's saying doesn't follow. It's non sequitur. And it's just simply untrue. So, anyways, what do we have here? We don't have a logically coherent argument, that's for sure. And we also have extraordinary misunderstanding of scientific principles. And Morpheus clearly has been in the Matrix way too long. It has affected his brain, along probably with the various pills that he's been taking. Those are the wrong colors. He was only supposed to take either the blue or the red pill, and he's been taking every color except for blue or red, and I'm very worried for his mental well-being. But I'm not done analyzing this video. Oh no, there's far more to go. So we know that already it's logically incoherent, but we're not done seeing just how logically incoherent this particular video is. So I can't say the thing that I always normally say sometimes. That I don't always say it. I sometimes say it. The thing that I say a lot at the end of my videos. Anyways, I can't say that yet because I'm not really done with this. So that means you get one of my other endings. The endings where I don't know how to end it and I have to say something different. So this time I've decided I'm going to say, unless until we have porcupines, we must continue to be lobsters.
Tastes like broccoli.